a far distance to applying to college, but it's a very complicated process. So I like to start touching base sophomore year and then feed the families and the students information over the next couple of years. So it's not so overwhelming. So here we are with meeting number 1. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so I've kind of outlined a bit of a checklist, things to keep in mind as this year progresses. It's really not early to be thinking about college and planning and discussing as a family what are reasonable plans, because sometimes students have very different ideas about what their college experience is going to look like. So communication is going to be something that's really important from the beginning. Now, every student has been automatically invited into a college classroom in their freshman year. So they should have had access to that classroom, since last year. However, most of the information is more geared towards sophomores, and certainly junior, senior year, there's just a plethora of information that's put up there. But it's a good idea to get in the habit of checking the classroom periodically, just to see if there's anything that needs to be done or any information, or sometimes there are opportunities that get posted for the summertime and things like that. So just get in the habit of checking that classroom periodically. And something that's really important, not only for college, but even when you think about, National Honor Society, is keeping some kind of record of the different activities that a student is involved in, whether it's, being in a club or on a team or volunteering, whatever they might be doing. Because, sometimes we think, well, I'm not going to forget what I did. And then comes junior year and you're thinking back, what have I done since freshman year? And it can be things get lost along the way because everyone's really busy. So just keep some kind of file. Doesn't have to be real formal, but something to keep track of the activities, experiences, accomplishments, even, thoughts about what they're interested in a general way. And that is all going to be really helpful when junior year they have to create a resume. So it's also helpful to start thinking about what are you really interested in as an individual. What do you like? What do your dislikes? Not exclusively in classes, but in general. If you find that computers are not your thing, then computer science is probably not a good career for you to be thinking about. Or on the other hand, if you love computers and you also love music, there's things that can be combined to have, really interesting careers. So just, start thinking about that and also keeping track of that. Never too early to start thinking about what you'd like to do in the summer. It's a very competitive process applying to college. So students that take advantage of, summer programs, it's helpful. It fills up the resume. It exposes you to, if it's a college, like a pre-college summer program, then you get experience perhaps on a college campus and what that feels like. We have a close relationship with a study abroad that students as early as freshman year are eligible to apply for scholarships and stuff to study many different countries around the world. And it's for a high school student to have that opportunity is very unique. And again, when it comes to, looking forward to applying to college, things that you have done that are different than a typical high school student make you stand out. So it's going to be much more than just what your grades are like. It's going to be who are you as an individual? Are you adventurous? What are the things that you have drawn your attention and kind of shaping the person that you're becoming as you go along. So the thing that I really love about these opportunities, even if it's a job, a small job, not a big job, or an internship, something like that, it exposes you to the world of work. So you have an idea of, do I see myself in this particular kind of environment, or, am I looking to do something a little different than this? Maybe you even want to have a little bit of an entrepreneurial experience and say, I'd like to eventually have my own business. So when you're working and exploring, these are the kind of things that you're going to be exposed to and you can think about. Make sure that you talk to everybody. Talk to your guidance counselor, your teachers. We have really great counselors and teachers. And, if you get friendly with the teacher and you start chatting about, what was their route to where they are today, you'll get some really interesting stories, and understanding that it's not always a straight line to a particular career. People have 2 or 3 careers is very common. Because you think you start with one, you think it's okay, and then you find something else and you move on, possibly. So have those conversations and see what other people have done, and what's interesting to you. There's lots of online career assessment tests, and those, they're interesting. I wouldn't get too locked into them, but if you want to, take 1 or 2 and just get an idea of where your strengths are. We also have a couple of College Now classes that we offer in the spring for sophomores and juniors, where it's a whole career exploration, college search process. And then there's the segment on how to really navigate the first year of college. So if you're interested in something like that, you could sign up for the College Now class and have that part of that. We will include a career assessment in there. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so lots of things to do and to think about. Next slide, please. Okay, so I make big lists. So, you'll meet with your counselor, a couple of times each year, and more often if you have a question or a concern. But most assuredly when you're choosing your classes for the following year. So you'll be meeting, talking about what you want to take in your junior year. And it's important to keep in mind, again, the things that are in some kind of alignment with what you think you might want to do. For example, if you think that engineering potentially is something for you, it's important to know that colleges expect, if you're interested in engineering, and we offer advanced classes in physics and advanced math classes, they're going to expect that you take them. So that would be a consideration when you're plotting out your schedule for junior year and, again, senior year. As you know more clearly what it is that you want to study, then you'll choose your classes accordingly. It's also important to understand that when you take those higher level classes, it may be challenging to keep your GPA as high as you were able to when you weren't taking them. But those rigorous classes really stand out to a college. So all these pieces to the puzzle you have to keep in mind that, you can't change once you get to senior year. You've taken whatever classes you took and you can't go back and change them. So make sure you have those conversations, with your counselor, and they know what you're thinking, and you guys can make a good plan. So in a very general way, you should start thinking about where you might want to attend college. So oftentimes students have this belief that if it's an Ivy League, it's wonderful. And they don't realize that there are over 4,000 schools in the United States, and many of them are wonderful. And you can get a wonderful degree, have a great experience, still have opportunities to network and explore. So keep your mind open as you're thinking about it. And again, ask those questions of your teachers, counselors. If you have friends who have older siblings, where they went to school, Let's get an idea of what it was like, and start thinking about that. Start sketching out a list of colleges that you're interested in. They all have, one of the benefits of COVID is that it forced everyone to really up their game when it comes to state-of-the-art websites and virtual tours and, all kinds of wonderful ways to see and experience a college without necessarily having to put your feet on the campus, especially for those schools on the West Coast, which, if you can get there, that's wonderful, but maybe not. Maybe it's going to be a virtual experience until you actually can get out there. So, but just start getting an idea of and a list of schools that are interesting to you at this point in time, and take a visit to their websites and explore them, because they're chock full of information. And every college in the country offers summer programs. So some of them are free, some of them are not. Some of them are super expensive, some of them are not. So this is all kind of the research that you can do that's going to help you as you move towards college. There's a belief that some colleges track interests, so they monitor if you're following them on social media and things like that. So if that's something that you want to do, you can. I think there are probably other more important things you could do, but that might be an easy thing to do. And that way you get a little more exposure to what they offer and what their specialty is, because every school has something that they are really proud of, and is like the enticement to come to them. So and again, the summer programs, try to align them with things that you're interested in. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is kind of a snapshot of what the colleges are looking at in a general way when it comes to an application. So of course they're going to look at your grades, and they're looking at the grades from freshman year all the way through junior year, through the end of junior year, for the initial application. So they will see everything in time, because when you apply, they're going to ask you for your current courses that you'll be taking as a senior. And then, we're going to send mid-year reports in the spring. So they'll know how you're doing, even after you've applied, perhaps. And if you apply early somewhere, then many schools will, top tier type schools, will ask for a snapshot, they call it, in mid-November, early December. So that's when we have a report card, so that we can send something, because we don't have a transcript until the end of January. Actually, it won't be available until the first week in February. So, but if they want that snapshot, we have to send it, and that's what they will get. So it all matters. It matters all the way to the ends of senior year. But as they're seeing the initial application, it goes through junior year. So keep that in mind. And as I said before, they're looking at not only your grades, your GPA, but the rigor of your classes. So you might have a 98 average, perhaps, but you haven't taken any rigorous classes. So it was, you kept your average nice and high. If you had a 98 and you had rigorous classes, that's a different 98 than the one with no rigor. So all these things, depending on the schools that you're interested in, those are the things that they consider. Okay, so we're moving back towards SATs again and ACTs. Not everywhere, but more schools are moving back to no longer optional. They like to have them, especially, the Ivy League schools and the top tier schools. They absolutely want the SATs. And, so that is something I'm going to ask you very strongly to resist taking until your spring of your junior year. And the reason I say that is the test score reports include all the tests that you take. So some colleges will allow you to just send what you would like, but other colleges want the entire report. And that means every test that you took. Now, if you start taking them now as a sophomore, and I've met students who even took it in freshman year, you run out of opportunities to take the test, because more than 3 attempts at a score reflects poorly. It starts to have the reverse effect. You're striving for a better score, but the more often that you take it beyond 3, it just looks like you're trying to get a better score, and so it's not looked at favorably. Even at the end, if you took it 5 times and ended up with the score you wanted, it wouldn't have the same meaning as if you waited, organically learned, matured, were more prepared to take that test in junior year in the spring, which is the normal time to take it. So, please keep that in the back of your mind as a very strong suggestion. So extracurricular activities could be anything. They can be clubs, teams, if you're in the marching bands, if you're on the tech crew, or, there's so many things going on in the building, I can't even keep track. And including anything that you might do if you're maybe working in your intermediate school. After you get out of high school, you go and you're working with their after school programs or something like that. That's something that you would add into that as an extracurricular activity. And it's a service. Every time we do things we don't have to do because we're not getting a grade for it. We don't need it to graduate. We're doing it because it's something we care about. It builds character, and that's something that is very favorable in life, and certainly for colleges. They want to know that you're a person of strong character, and that you care about more than just your grades and yourself, and that when you come to their institution, you are going to continue to do those things. And just like we benefit from all the great things that you do, because it reflects on us, like how wonderful we are, that our students are so fabulous. The same thing for the college. They want to know that you're going to add to the college community in a positive way. So this is like a practice, getting used to that. And then, of course, the application itself, which varies school to school. There's no, we use the Common App, which is good in a general way, but then every individual college is going to have these supplemental essays that they want from you, which could be anything. And then, of course, you need teacher recommendations and a counselor recommendation. All that kind of goes into what we call the package of who you are, and gets delivered to the schools of your choice. Okay, next slide. Okay, so again, one thing you're going to learn about me is that I'm someone who repeats things that I think are important. So something that I have noticed in my time, I've been here for a lot of years, and I've noticed that some students start their resume building and research into things they're interested in right away. And then other students, sometimes it's junior year and they're like, oh, I better start putting something on my resume. So the things that are impactful, you have done over time. It's not the things that you started doing, the month before you applied to college, or even the summer before. They can be additions for sure to the overall picture of who you are. But if they just started at that point in time, they don't really have that kind of real strong meaning. So think about the things that how you invest your time and where you invest it. So student government is something that a lot of students are interested in, some more than others. It's definitely something that you can build on and have lots of different leadership opportunities as a result. Teams, we have so many different teams, and those are really strong, collaborative events and leadership opportunities. Even if you are not a captain per se, if you've been on a team for a number of years, just naturally you're going to be mentoring the younger team members when they come, because that's just what you've been kind of geared to do. So the study abroad is probably my favorite. I think that it's just so life-changing for our students come back, and they, with these stories of their experiences, people they met. Really wonderful if you can do it. And in this relationship we have with CIEE, they offer our school a certain amount of scholarships. So depending on the number of students that are going to be studying abroad, that number of scholarship money goes up. So this year we had over 30 students that studied this past summer. So we got more funding for that, and of course you have to apply for it. But I think pretty much everyone got some kind of help to pay for the trip, and you can get college credit too from these abroad experiences. Internships, we have a vibrant career development office that is posting their opportunities constantly. So check their website and see if there's anything that's interesting to you. If you do have the chance to have a summer job, or I don't like to encourage students to work during the school year unless it's necessary, but certainly summer is a great time to make some extra cash and understand you're going to college, so you don't have to work so hard, right, in those really manual labor kind of jobs. So it's a good wake-up call. And of course, if you like research, SERP is just fabulous. Everyone is given the opportunity in their sophomore year to explore SERP, and those that remain end up with really powerful resumes and college applications, because they have college level research that they have done. Now that's not for everyone, but for those that enjoy it and do it, it's wonderful. So, and then of course, band. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. All right. So in order to, just in a general way, prepare for what's coming ahead, make your own to-do list. You saw I have a checklist, 2-page checklist. So you can pick from that the things that you think are the most important. But these are the highlights, in my humble opinion. And that's, as far as your grades, maintaining the best that you can. And that doesn't mean if it's not perfect that it's no good, but just your personal best at all times. And understand that they are going to get your transcript includes everything. So sometimes as a freshman, perhaps, in that transition into our school, it's a little bit of a culture shock that maybe you never had to study before because you're very bright. And now here you are in a school like ours, and it's not working, and you don't have the skills because you just didn't have to before. And so it can take, a semester or two to get your footing, develop some study skills and organizational skills and the things that you need in order to be successful. And so then you come to sophomore year and things are better, and junior year better still. So the colleges look at that and they understand that freshman year is a transition year, and it's different for everyone. So don't be disheartened if freshman year was a bit of a challenge. Just continue to do your best, and keep the big picture in mind. That it's more than just your grades. Grades are, yes, important, but I've seen students that had perfect grades but no activities, because they would say to me, I have to pay attention to my grades. And no matter what I would say, that, the colleges want you to be well-rounded, and they want to know what else you're doing. They don't want you to just be going home and studying. But, and they didn't make it into schools that their grades led them to believe they would get into. But their overall application didn't reflect a well-rounded student. And so they, not that they didn't go to college, they did, but they didn't get into the schools they had anticipated they would. So it's important to, look at everything. And, if you try some activity and it's not for you, you don't have to continue it just because I said it's important to be consistent, but you want to try something else, or maybe try a few things at one time until you decide and you feel you found what is good for you. So again, back to this idea of not only is it important because I say it is, but it's important because it builds character. And, I've had students say to me, they didn't expect, like they did the service because they wanted, to get the service hours to get into NHS or for whatever purpose it was. And they were surprised at how good it made them feel. And that even after they had plenty of hours, they continued because it was something that was just really meaningful for them. So everyone benefits when people are generous with their time with others. So, keep that in mind. And again, an appropriate test-taking schedule, which means don't be taking it now. Sophomore year is not the time to be taking the SAT. And, if you want to study for it, that's one thing, but not to actually take the test where it's going to be, marked and part of your record forever. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. And again, creating a file, keep your notes. When you find a college that you're interested in, you think you're never going to forget, just like you're not going to forget the activities that you did when you were freshman year, but you are going to forget. So make sure that you write things down, take notes, whether you like to physically take notes or if you have, you want to make a spreadsheet of some kind. I've seen students get really elaborate with their little databases they create with all the college information. And as we move on, you'll see that, you're going to have a college fair they're going to attend, and we have reps come in and talk to students in senior year. So there's going to be a lot of things where you get more and more information. You can look at different colleges through the College Board, big future section. You put in your information as you have it, and you'll see there's just so many schools. Quite a number of our students are also applying to schools in other countries. So then you have even more choices. So lots of things that you can start exploring now and either rule them in or rule them out. And, we live in a city that has lots of schools, lots of colleges, and you can visit just to get an idea, what it's like. One of the seniors said to me today that they had been enamored with NYU for the longest time. And then they went to the city to visit, and they realized there's no campus. It's a great school, great programs, wonderful. And if you're okay with not having like that campus feel, then that's fine. But she had in mind something else. She wanted the stereotypical college campus and, all that kind of thing. So she was surprised that she wasn't feeling that strong love for NYU at that point because of that, even though there were other things, of course, that were drawing her. So if you can, visit some of the schools that we have, I think that's great. All the boroughs, there are schools. So wherever you're coming from, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten Island, they all have local schools that you can visit and get an idea of what it's like to just be on a campus. It's very different. And of course, those virtual tours. But again, not at the expense of that you're not paying attention to where you are now. You're a sophomore. So all in moderation, things to think about, start to explore, but don't get lost so that you're not paying attention to what you're doing now. And think about a major. You know, sometimes if you just kind of identify the things that you're good at, your interests, your talents, your abilities, you can try to, from that point, say, well, how could I use that in a job or a career? What would that look like? Instead of looking for a career and then seeing if you could fit into it. So there's, a lot of different things to explore and to think about. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so again, don't get too overwhelmed, but I'm just gonna kind of bring you down the garden path that sophomore year is going to be in a blink of the eye. You're done, and then you're entering junior year, and it's a whole new world. And so that's when, our meetings are going to be more intense. That's when I meet with, in the spring of junior year, I meet with every single junior one-on-one, and we talk about, all right, I hope you've been thinking for the past year and a half about what I said in sophomore year, and where are you at? What are you considering? And kind of go through where they're at with their testing, and if they are satisfied with their tests. Are they going to submit? If their school is test optional, are they going to still submit? Many of our students do that, and I presume or assume by the time you guys are applying that many more colleges will be going to be back to wanting those tests. So, unfortunately, you have to check school by school, which is back to why it's important to have a list. So you don't have to go through 4,000 schools. And, by this point in time in junior year, whatever activity that you have been consistently involved with, if you're in a cultural club and you do the multicultural every year, then that's going to be something that is going to be a big part of what your the picture of who you are. That this has been important to you, sharing your culture with others, and all that's involved. And that happens to be one of my favorite events that we do every year is the multicultural show. It's just wonderful to see students come together in that way. But by junior year, whatever activities you have identified, now you're in them. You're in them with commitments, and you are, just building on whatever it is that you have been doing all along the way. And then the college fairs. We have a college fair here. There are college fairs, around the city. The Big Apple Fair, and the Javits Center has a fair, and there are just many opportunities that are not limited, just to the the current seniors or even the current juniors. They're available for anybody, but the larger fairs can be a little overwhelming. But good to get the information. Make sure that when I schedule you to meet with me, that you keep that appointment, because I think there's 300, I don't remember how many of you there's going to be, but currently there's 357 seniors, and this next class is 359. So it's like a scheduling kind of, I don't want to say it's a nightmare, but it is a challenge, shall we say. And when students don't keep their appointments, then you end up on the bottom of the list again, and it can get messy. So I really try to get everyone done by the beginning of May. So from the last week in January, usually, until May, I'm meeting with students every day, all day. So please be mindful that, when you're called to come and be prepared to have a conversation about where you're at. Okay. So the scholarship thing, I'm going to say, is something that you should keep your eyes open for and start applying. Anything that comes along. Sometimes there are like writing opportunities, and there are prizes, anywhere from couple $100 to $5,000 or $10,000 for some of these writings. Do them when teachers say, "Oh, here you go. If you wanna apply to this, any age." Some things are ninth grade to 12th, so anyone can apply. And then as you get closer to junior and senior year, it's more specific. But keep your eyes on that classroom and keep your ears open for anything that your teachers might offer to you, because all of it is going to help you pay for this overwhelming cost of college. So College Board has a scholarships that you can see on their site. GoingMary.com is a great site, and they will, after you fill out a profile, none of these have any fees. So if anybody's asking you for money for a scholarship site, don't, because there's plenty of free sites. So Going Mary is great. They will take your profile and match you, and every week or two, they'll send you a list of college scholarships that you could apply to. And RaiseMe.com is a micro scholarship program where every class that you take, you earn a certain amount of money towards college tuition. And the colleges, currently there's over 300 schools in our Northeast area that recognize RaiseMe as a, they accept it. So if you accrue, $20,000 or $30,000 in scholarships just by taking, doing well on your classes, every A gets so much money and all this kind of thing, it can be helpful. So look into it, and FastWeb is always a good one as well. So the more you do, there's an expression that, the more that you do, the more you get back. So if you just do one scholarship and it doesn't work out and you say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it," all right, that's it. But there are thousands of them, thousands and thousands. If your parents work in unions, are part of unions have scholarships. So ask them about that. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. So I usually say that junior year is, the busiest year, but senior year is also super busy because now you are in the home stretch, and you did whatever it is you could do to get your transcript where it is, and you've picked your classes the best of your ability, and you have started your list, and now you're applying. So you can't go backwards. So you want to just make sure that you don't overload yourself. One of the things that I find with some people is they think that, "Oh, I didn't have enough opportunity to take rigorous classes up until now. So now I'm going to take 4 AP classes in senior year." So it always sounds like a great idea in junior year, but when you get to senior year and now you're doing your applications and you're writing your essays and you write your supplements and you're trying to keep your grades up and all this kind of thing, it can be overwhelming. And in senior year, it's next to impossible to drop a class, because those courses in progress that go with every application are inputted into your college application at the beginning of September. So if that changes, then it's a very big deal. It's a very big deal. Special reports have to be done. Colleges have to be notified. It's very messy. So nobody's going to easily let you drop an AP class once you started that class in senior year, unless it's really extenuating circumstances. It's just a terrible plan. So better to stick with the 3 so that you're not overwhelmed, and it's something that you will be able to manage and do well, and do all these other things also. So keep that in mind. So senior year, really the last opportunity to take an SAT, if you still weren't happy with the score you had, would be October, maybe November, but no later than that, unless you're doing regular decision. Because for the early applications, early decision, early action, restricted early action, they all, their timelines are not going to allow anything after November 1st at the latest. So usually I say October for your, if you have to take another SAT or ACT. So get yourself familiar with the Common App, Coalition, and School Specific. So these are different platforms to apply. Some schools like MIT, University of Chicago, and Georgetown, for example, have school specific. They're not on any of these other platforms. So you have to apply directly to the school and do whatever they ask. And we, start trying to wrap your head around what does early decision, early action, restricted early action. I don't want to get too into that now, but those are the means of applying, and the deadlines come early. So early decision can be as early as October 15th. The normal time frame is November 1st, but some of them can be November 15th. I mean, there's never a hard and fast. There's a million exceptions. So, and understanding that restrictive early action is just that. It's very restrictive. It's non-binding, where early decision is binding. You're telling the school that you will go. Restrictive early action is not binding, but it's restrictive. So no private schools, only public schools, in addition to the one Ivy League that you want to apply to. So you need to know all this so you're not caught off guard. And understand that even though there are parameters, every one of those schools has exceptions. So you have to know for your school that you're applying to, what's the exception, if there is one. So again, back to the research and creating the list and all this stuff. And then, of course, understands the financial aid process with the FAFSA, TAP, and CSS. So again, it's just, you're going to be busy. So let's go on to the next slide. All right. So probably the most important thing that I can say is not to procrastinate and to please communicate. So communicate with me, with your parents, with your guidance counselors, with your teachers. Let us know where you're at, what you need, because we can't help you if we don't know. So the procrastination and communication are the most important things to keep in mind. And remember, with the plan, it's always subject to change. So don't get locked in that it must be something. You can switch things up as you go along, as long as you keep that communication up and let us know what you're doing. And, pay attention to your grades. So you worked hard to get into the school. You're working hard while you're here. And so you may as well get the best satisfaction you can from doing really well and going off to the school that you would like to. And again, ask for help if you need it. And everyone in the school is here to help you. And if they are not directly able to help you, they're going to direct you to somebody who can. So please just ask. All right. I'm not sure if we have another slide. Do we have another slide? Okay.
Nope, that's all for tonight. And okay. I don't see any questions.
Okay. All right. So good luck. And I'll be seeing you soon.